Welcome to the Dansportstips NFL preview show. I'm taking a look at some of the betting markets and match bets and what have you on the NFL this season. I'm going to start with the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. There are three players I want to highlight in this market. I'm going to start with Khalil Mack of Oakland. The key here is not only that Mack is an absolute beast who gets pressure on the quarterback, but the addition of Bruce Irvin to play on the opposite side of him will give offensive coordinators across the league a nightmare. You can't double team them both, and in honesty, with Irvin being pure pass rusher and Mack a more complete player, it may actually end up being Irvin who gets double teamed. And if that occurs, Mack is going to run wild. He'll be getting into the backfield of teams and could have a season for the ages. And I think 13-2 in opposition for JJ Watt, who has won it 3 times in 5 years, but I don't think he's ever won Defensive Player of the Year 2 in a row. So as the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year, I am going to take him on this year. The other player I want to take on, another player I want to take him on with, is Aaron Donald of the Los Angeles Rams. Donald is a destructive force on the interior line for one of, if not the best front sevens in football. A defensive tackle is rare as a Defensive Player of the Year, but Donald gets enough pressure on the quarterback up the gut to certainly merit consideration. Teammate Robert Quinn, if healthy, is also a viable alternative, but he does have that checkered history for staying on the field. And the final player is Clay Matthews of the Green Bay Packers. 50-1 is a massive price on him. If the plan to move Matthews back to a pass rushing role on the outside does in fact come to fruition, then Matthews merits huge consideration in this market. He's been a square peg in a round hole for a number of years, having been moved away from that role to the interior of the linebacking formations. This is reflected in his price. He isn't a coverage linebacker, he's a pure pass rusher. The concern would be that inside linebacker is one of the main weaknesses on the Green Bay defence. So while they have good intentions to move him back outside, they may cave in and put him back on the inside before the season is out. Looking at the best record in the NFL this year, this doesn't necessarily go to the best team. Schedule plays a big part. We're looking for a team with a solid roster top to bottom, depth if possible, and a kind schedule. Now, while the division depth of the team I'm going to put up is better than it has been in a number of years, I think the team that ticks the most boxes here is the Kansas City Chiefs. To have the best record in the NFL this season at 20-1, I think is a massive, massive price. On the flip side of this conversation is the worst record in the NFL. Now, much like the best record, but in reverse, the least talented teams in this league at the moment are Cleveland and San Francisco. Throw in Tennessee, who look handicapped by poor coaching, and Philadelphia, who look to have sacrificed the season before it starts in starting Carson Wentz. The market isn't actually that far off here. Maybe Philly are a touch big, but San Francisco have got a ridiculously hard schedule for a fourth place team, in no part due to having to play 4 games against 2 of the league's best in their own division. They should be favourites, they're not. 6-1 on San Francisco to have the worst record in the NFL is huge. Other sort of novelty bets, to have the most rushing yards this year. I love this spot for Lamar Miller. Adrian Peterson and Todd Gurley are both fairly obvious too. They're players on teams with no quarterback and success over a full season in the past. But Lamar Miller has finally gone to a team that likes to give the bulk of carries to a lead running back. He's shown signs of being really good in Miami. If he has the ability to be consistent with increased workload over 16 games and stays healthy, look out, because he offers incredible value each way with serious win chances at a double-figure price. The Offensive Rookie of the Year this year looks to be one of the most boring markets among them all. Ezekiel Elliott, barring injury, looked easily in the best spot to win this award post-draft, and following the injury to Romo in the preseason, he looks even more so. The Cowboys succeeded with a lot of run behind that excellent offensive line with DeMarco Murray 2 years ago. With Romo hurt, they're likely to hand the ball off to their rookie a lot this year. It may well be worth a saver on Carson Wentz, just in case I'm wrong about how it's going to shake out in Philly this year and he gets the job done. Certainly isn't going to be Dak Prescott, who shouldn't be second favourite, but I will take Ezekiel Elliott to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year at 6-4, and I'll cover it with Carson Wentz as well. There's a few match bets between players. I mean, Allen Robinson is a coin flip with Alshon Jeffrey for most receiving yards this year. I think Robinson looks likely to beat Alshon Jeffrey on the basis I trust his health more. The Jags threw the ball down the field more often to Robinson last year, and he has spoken up about opening up his deep play potential to its full effect this year. I'm not sure I trust Cutler to get the ball to Jeffrey enough for him to win this matchup. Robinson looks a breakout candidate. That's if you don't think he already broke out last year. I think Robinson to have more yards than Jeffrey is a good bet. Keenan Allen to have more more receiving yards than Des Bryant. This is simply down to quarterback. Philip Rivers is miles better over 6 to 10 games than Dak Prescott. The Cowboys will run more often than San Diego as well with that line and Ezekiel Elliott. Rivers is capable of finding Allen almost at will. Both receivers have got somewhat spotty injury histories and health is taken on trust, but I really like Allen's chances to beat out Des Bryant this year. Sammy Watkins to have more receiving yards than Michael Floyd. It could be argued that Floyd isn't even the second option at wide receiver on his team, with Larry Fitzgerald and John Brown there. Sammy Watkins is virtually the only option in Buffalo. He linked up on big plays regularly with Tyrod Taylor last year. With Rob Ryan's influence on their defence as well, it could be argued that Buffalo will be in more shootouts and have to throw the ball more this year. I really like Watkins' chances, though he is always a health risk as well. Melvin Gordon to have more rushing yards than Ryan Matthews. We have San Diego's latest first round running back flop against San Diego's last first round running back flop. The line in Philly is better than in San Diego, but Matthews is highly unlikely to make it through 16 games, and Gordon almost can't be worse than last year. He's the clear running back of choice for the Chargers, almost in expected volume over 16 games. Gordon should win this quite comfortably, in all honesty. Jamal Charles to have more rushing yards than Thomas Rawls. Here we have two players that seasons were ended early due to injury last year and are allegedly coming back into timeshares in the backfield. I believe that a lot less with the Chiefs, more in the sample size that we have of proven performance from Jamal Charles. Has this injury finished him? Possibly, but I've seen far too many backs have a hot half year like Thomas Rawls did coming in for Marshawn Lynch last year and then do nothing the next year. That's exactly where Rawls falls. I trust Jamal Charles a lot more than I trust Thomas Rawls. Ezekiel Elliott to have more rushing yards than Doug Martin. Elliott is a rookie, so we are in dangerous, unproven territory here, but Doug Martin has a downgrade in the offensive line, produced an unexpected season of brilliance last year to get paid, finishing second in the NFL for rushing yards. I smell regression for Martin this year, somewhere between what he'd been doing before last year and what he did last year in all likelihood. But Elliott has no quarterback of note, he has the best line in the league blocking for him, and I'll take my chances on the rookie. The final match bet is Lamar Miller to beat LaShawn McCoy on rushing yards. I think Miller's got a shot at leading the league, as I've already said. McCoy needs to play 16 games first and foremost to have a chance in this, and that has been an issue in recent years for him. He missed multiple games last year, so I think Lamar Miller to exceed Sean McCoy's rushing yards is also a really solid bet. Looking at the MVP market, it's not a market I tend to get heavily involved in. There's a lot of markets that are like playing bingo, in all honesty, in the specials for the NFL, such as who's going to score the most touchdowns. Touchdowns are far too unpredictable. There is an upside play in MVP at a big price though, and I'm going to take it. In all likelihood, you want a quarterback. Philip Rivers of the San Diego Chargers. He's 100 to 1. I think the Chargers do actually achieve something, and if they do, and I'm right, it wouldn't be the first time that Philip Rivers has put this team on his back. It also wouldn't be the first time that a team was going to move city, went on a run, rallied the city behind them, and ended up staying put. See the New Orleans Saints after Hurricane Katrina. I'm aware that was different circumstances. There's no way the Chargers do anything without Rivers, and he's shown capability of MVP numbers over at least a half season period before. If he does that for a full season and the Chargers get somewhere this year, 100 to 1 will look a silly price. Comeback player of the year is also difficult to predict, but I am going to take a shot on a couple of upside Cleveland Browns. If the Browns do have a half decent season, which I think is unlikely, but I guess you never know what can happen. These two players have shown capabilities in the past before being derailed. RG3 is a former offensive rookie of the year. He's 14 to 1. Hugh Jackson can get the best out of quarterbacks. He's shown that with Andy Dalton over the last few years. I think 14 to 1. If RG3 can even have a half decent season, lead Cleveland to somewhere like 7 and 9, 8 and 8. He's in with a shout if he puts up solid numbers in this one. And Josh Gordon on the same team for 45 to 1. This man was suspended for a couple of games, and then after that led the league in receiving yards a few years ago with nobody of note at quarterback. He's since been banned for drug use, and he's now finally going to be reinstated at some point this year. I think he's suspended the first 4 games. I think if he comes in and manages to perform at the level he did the last time he played almost a full season, then Josh Gordon is a knocking bet at 45 to 1. And I'm going to finish up with my Super Bowl outrights. If you've watched the divisional previews, you will know my opinions on these teams. I'm going to bet 3 teams. The Arizona Cardinals to win the Super Bowl, the Cincinnati Bengals to win the Super Bowl, and the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. In summary, the window's closing on Cincinnati slowly. They will miss Hugh Jackson, but if you feel this team can finally notch that first playoff win, maybe they can bunch a few together, and that Pittsburgh meltdown can serve as the perfect motivation to get them back into the fight. Arizona, they've got the best top to bottom roster in the league. The schedule has done them more favours than division rivals Seattle. I think they'll probably get home field in the NFC, and I think that'll be good enough for them to get to the Super Bowl for the first time in almost 10 years. The Kansas City Chiefs have got a solid regular season pedigree. They've got a coach who's repeatedly achieved high seedings with Philadelphia in the past and done okay with Kansas City. The spectre and the shadow of the Denver Broncos is no longer hanging over this team in division. They've got a nice schedule, and I think They've got a really good path with the suspension to Tom Brady as well to get to some home field in the playoffs. Arrowhead is a good home field advantage. It will be rocking. Is it possible that Andy Reid could win it all? I will leave you with that thought. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen this NFL season. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like my video. Keep watching all season long. I'll be here every week with regular NFL content. Follow me on Twitter at dansportstips, and I will see you later.